Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar about the new cnArcher features. If you have any questions at any point during the webinar, we have a questions panel. You can enter your questions in there, and then Rajesh can get to them by the end of the webinar if we have time. And at this point, I'd also like to introduce today's speaker. It's Rajesh Vijay Kumar, VP of Engineering at Cambium Networks. Rajesh, you can take it from here.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is keeping safe. I wanted to start with a bit of history of cnArcher. Few years back, one of our senior executives happened to see an SM being installed live. There were two installers present. One person was on the roof aligning the antenna, and second person was on the ground looking at the PMP GUI on a laptop and shouting instructions, turn left, turn right, etc. And it, as you can imagine, it took quite a bit of time to get the alignment right, and even then, most likely it was not optimal. So after seeing the trouble the installers were going through, he reached out to me and said we need to find a better way to help the installers install the SM. Now this was a new WISP, and the installers were also new. They were just getting familiar with the system, so they had not yet optimized their workflow. So we reached out to few of our other customers, and what we found was that there were a lot of variations in the way people were installing SMs, both PMP and ePMP. And if you are a small to mid-sized WISP, then you probably have experienced installers who know the product well, and they had no issues with the installation. But if you are a new WISP or a new installer getting up to speed, or if you are a large WISP that have to train a lot of installers on a frequent basis, or you outsource your installation, then you had issues because there was some amount of learning needed before you actually were comfortable doing the installation. So with this in mind, creating an app itself was not a new idea. We were talking about that at the time already. The debate internally was, do we do an app or do we invest more time in making the GUI itself more optimal for mobile use? Anyway, after this event, we basically, this gave us the reason to actually decide to do an app. And what we wanted to do was simplify the installation so that minimal training is required. A new person can come up to speed and start the install. The app does a good job of walking the installer through the sequence of steps required for the installer, so you don't actually have to learn the GUI of the subscriber module. You don't have to carry a laptop anymore. You don't have to climb to somebody's roof with a laptop, because you can see the GUI on the phone, and it's a very scaled down GUI, so it shows you what you need to know and nothing more. And that's the way, and that's how we decided to build the app. The app was originally aimed at the installer. So basically we said, how can we make the installer's life easy while he's installing the SM? But once people started using the app, what we also saw was that the WISPs who were effectively using the app, they were the ones where the app was being rolled out across all their installers. The installers were trained to use the app, and the administrator or the operations manager was also invested in the app. So when we saw this, we started adding more features into the app to make this workflow easier, where the interaction between the administrator and the installer easier. So we started adding more features to make that also easier. So we'll walk through some of those features also as we go along in this webinar. The app is available for both Android and iOS. So it's available if you go to the App Store and search for cnArcher, you can download and install the app. One thing to be aware of is that our feature development happens first on Android, and then there is a 6 to 9 month delay before the feature becomes available on iOS. So most of the things I talk in this webinar is available on both Android and iOS, but some of the new features are available only on Android. Both Android and iOS have open beta. So when before we release a new version, we do an open beta for both Android and iOS. On Android, the store itself has the ability to sign up for beta. So if you sign up for beta from the store, you start getting beta versions. On iOS, we post a link to the beta on the forum. So if you monitor the cnArcher forum, you'll see when iOS betas come out. There's no way directly in the app that or directly in the app store that you can sign up for betas. You have to click on the link, join the beta, and then install the app. So we'll send the instructions. We include the instructions for that. So right now we are at version 1.4 for Android and 1.2 beta for iOS, and both Android and iOS support PMP and ePMP, and actually the newest beta version on iOS, the main new feature is support for ePMP SMs. Now, once you install the app, you will quickly see that there is not much you can do without having the app connect to a live SM. And once you go through a few screens, you actually need an AP for the SM to connect to before you can proceed. So to allow you to get an idea about what the app can do, how the app behaves, etc., we have added what's called a demo mode that will walk you through the installation steps of a typical SM. So you can just launch the demo mode and walk through the steps and see what how the app works. If you are already familiar with, and this uses a PMP SM as an example, if you're already familiar with the installation process of the SM from the SM GUI, then you'll be able to easily match what's going on in the app and also see that how the app takes you step by step through the install. And without having to worry about which page to go in the GUI for configuring the name of the SM or running a link test or aligning the SM, etc. The app basically walks you through the entire sequence. And before I proceed, I just wanted to let everyone know, if you have a question, type it in. I will try to answer questions as we go along rather than wait till the end. So now let's walk through the steps of installing a brand new SM. For this to make a lot of sense, I assume that you're already somewhat familiar with the installation process, even if you are not actually, install the SM in person. At least it will show you how the app simplifies the install. If you have already installed the SM or do it regularly, then you'll be able to easily match what each screen is doing instead of what's in the GUI. So this is the typical setup for how cnArcher works. So we are recommending this particular dongle from PowerLink. What the dongle does is it has a Wi-Fi access point which the phone connects to, and on the other side it has a PoE out cable. It's also a battery, so you can charge this and you can use this to power up the subscriber module. Once it is connected in this way, the app is able to talk directly to the subscriber module over the default IP address. So there is no, it's not mandatory that you use PowerLink. All that is needed is some setup where the app can talk directly to the subscriber module. We have seen customers use different options here. The disadvantage of PowerLink is that the battery is pretty small. So we've seen customers who use bigger batteries. They use that to power up the subscriber module, or we have also seen people use desktop UPSs, which has like a normal 3-pin plug that you can use to power up the subscriber module, and a small Wi-Fi router to connect the SM to the app. So the reason we recommend PowerLink is that's what we have tested, and that's a pretty neat package where you get everything you need. in one small dongle. So let's go over the what all the app can help you with during the install of the SM. So our goal is that the installer should be able to take out an SM out of the box and install it. No need to actually pre-configure the SM. There's no staging required, and you'll be able to run through the entire flow of installation just using a brand new SM. So the first thing that you will see, as soon as the app detects an SM, it will show the details of the SM on this initial screen. So here you will see the app showing the what type of product it is, what type of product was detected, what the MSN is, what the MAC address is, what the software version on the radio is. And if you see this particular button here, you can click on that to upgrade the software on the SM if that's what you want. You can also configure a preferred software version in the settings. So if you look at the screen here, if you look at the top left of the screen, you'll see this menu button. You can click on the menu button, go into settings, and download software versions for PMP and ePMP. And if you want, you can specify a preferred software version. So once you configure a preferred software version, what you'll see is that if the SM is not running that, you'll see a warning here saying you're not running the preferred software version. So it's another reminder to update the software. I've seen some customers use the app just to configure or upgrade the software, and that's I wish you would use it to go through the entire flow. But if upgrading the software is what helps you, then by all means do it. One request I would have is give us the feedback on what we can do to make you use the full the full sequence. And at the end, we'll go over some of the sort of disadvantages of using the app as opposed to directly using the GUI if you are an experienced installer. And that's something that we are trying to solve in the next few months. So once you upgrade the software, which is optional, you don't have to upgrade the software. Once you upgrade the software, then you have the ability to run an AP scan. Once the app talks to the SM scans the APs and tells, it shows the list of all the APs it found. Here you can click on an AP to connect to it. Basically what it's doing is it's configuring the color code on the radio. So all these screenshots that you're seeing are basically from the demo mode, and the demo mode shows you PMP screenshots, but the flow for ePMP is pretty much the same. And I also wanted to highlight this small table that you see on the bottom right of the screen. This will tell you whether the feature that is being discussed is supported on Android and iOS. It will also tell you whether the feature is supported on PMP and ePMP. So for a lot of the screens, you will see that it's supported on both Android and iOS, and it's supported for PMP and ePMP. But on some of the newer features, you'll see that it's only supported on Android or only supported for PMP or ePMP, etc. So next step, once you connect to an AP, the next step is to align the SM. So this screen allows you to align the SM. So as you are turning the SM, the screen shows you what you need to see. It's basically, you can just look at the RSSI values, the best RSSI and the current RSSI. And as you turn the SM, left and right or up or down, it is always tracking the best RSSI that you have seen, and that it shows on the left as the best RSSI, and on the right it shows you the current RSSI. And your goal is basically to do the full scan, so you read the best or you get the best RSSI possible, and then you realign the SM back to the best case RSSI. And the other thing, for at least for PMP, that a lot of customers look at is the signal strength ratio. So that also we show at the bottom of the screen. And once you've aligned, you can run a link test, and you can run multiple link tests. The history here will show the results of the multiple link tests if you run multiple link tests, and decide if the link is good enough to serve that particular subscriber. And one advantage of this workflow is that once with the dongle, you don't even need to go into the subscriber's house to power up the SM. So you're doing everything without going into the subscriber's house. You're doing everything up to the point of validating the install before you even go into the subscriber's house and connect up the SM. So everything till now is, the dongle provides you the ability to do all this without pulling a power cable from inside the subscriber's house. Now, once you have seen that the SM can be deployed, next step is to configure the SM. So the screen allows you to configure the name of the SM, the networking parameters, like whether you want to enable NAT, whether the IP is DHCP or static, what are the VLANs used, etc. And one thing that you don't see in the screen is GPS coordinates. So here you will see we are asking for height, but we are not asking for GPS coordinates. What will happen is the app automatically gets the GPS coordinates from the phone and configures it on the SM. And one of the cool things is if you are using cnMaestro, you may already know that cnMaestro pulls the GPS coordinates from the device and shows it in the map automatically. So if you use the app to install the SM, the location of the SM is automatically configured for you without either the installer or the administrator having to do anything manual. So once the installation is complete, whether you onboard the SM from the app or you onboard the SM later independently, the SM shows up at the correct location in the map. And this is the page where you type in some notes. You can save it. Later on, we'll go over the installation report feature. So what are, the installation notes go into the installation report that can be emailed out. And here you can, so at this point, the installation is complete. So you have basically fully configured the radio and deployed it. What the screen allows you to do is take some photos of the install. So you can take up to 4 photos. You just click on the camera icon here and take a photo. And once the photo is taken, that also is included in the installation summary. And this is the installation summary screen that you can review. So once you start installing SMs, you'll see that the installation summaries are stored on the phone. You can go later and review them. So this is the screen that you see when you want to review the installation summary. And you also have the ability to share the installation summary with the administrator or operations manager, where they will get a detailed report of how the install went. So this will include things like the link test results. This will include things like the RSSI, so the best case RSSI as well as the actual RSSI that the SM was installed for. It will include all the configuration changes that was done by the installer, the name, VLANs, etc. And basically it can be used to, as a record of the install. So in case, 2 months later, the subscriber calls and says, okay, I have a problem, you can look at the SM, you can look at the RSSI, you can do a link test, and you can compare it with the original report that was generated during the install. So now that's pretty much the install flow, and the flow is same for PMP or ePMP, or very same. You'll see some differences in terms of terminology. PMP will use color code to connect, whereas ePMP will use SSID and preferred AP and that mechanism. But if you look at the actual flow, the flow is pretty much the same. Now, this is all good. It helps with the install, simplifies the install. But you may have noticed that you're still typing in, host names and IP addresses and VLANs while you're installing it. And one of the things we wanted to do was, make it so make the actual install process somewhat simpler. So we wanted to move some of the work of configuration or typing in all these values before the installer is actually on the roof and aligning the SM. So we added this feature called work orders. So what it does is it allows you to configure, or it allows you to collect all this data and put it in a work order before you actually go to the subscriber's house. So this particular work order record will contain information about the subscriber, their name, contact, phone number, address. It will also contain information about the SM configuration for that particular subscriber. Like, what do you want to name the SM? What is the management VLAN? What is the data VLAN? Is NAT enabled? What is the IP address? Whole bunch of stuff. So the idea is that before you go to the subscriber's house for the install, you can pre-configure this in the app. And while you are doing the install, you don't have to type in anything. It will just take what's in the work order and automatically, walk you through the screens. You just have to keep hitting next, and it will basically configure the SM. So here you will see a work order being created. So if you look at, if you can just go to the work order screen from the menu and click on the add work order button, and you can start typing in the various options for the work order. And at the end, what will happen is, you're configuring a subscriber name, address, phone number, etc. And later, when you review the work order, the app also allows you to just click on the contact number and call the customer. You can click on the address and start navigation. It will launch, Google Maps or Maps on iOS and start the navigation to the subscriber's address. And you're also configuring all the parameters needed for the installation. Now, what it also does is that one of the neat tricks that the app can do is, if you have configured the work orders in the app, when you are at the subscriber's location and you launch the app, it actually detects that you are at this particular subscriber. So how that does is it matches the GPS coordinates of the phone with the GPS coordinates of the address that is entered here. So if it sees that you are at a particular subscriber's location, it will launch and it will automatically select that particular work order to start the install. So you don't have to actually select. If you have 10 work orders configured, the app will select the correct work order for you to work on when you're at that site. You don't have to explicitly scroll through and select the work order. Now, even with the work orders, the installer still has to type in the information. And the next feature I want to show will allow the installer to import the work order without having to type in the details. And if you look at the typical case, it is not the installer that decides all these parameters. It is usually the network administrator that decides what VLANs need to be configured, how to name the SM, etc., and communicates that to the installer. So the next feature here, which is basically importing a work order from email, what this allows the administrator to do is they can create a work order as a text file. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, there's a file attached to that email with .cnArcher extension. So the administrator can create this file. It's basically a JSON file with all the parameters configured there, and send it to the installer. When the installer clicks on it, it will open in cnArcher as a work order, and you can basically save that work order. So without the installer having to type anything in, the administrator can, the administrator can send that details to the installer, and they can basically launch it from their email, open it in cnArcher as a work order, and save it. So if you have 3 installs in a day, all 3 work orders can be sent to the installer ahead of time, and they can just add it to their queue, and it will show you these are the 3 work orders for you today. And to make it easy to understand how to create a work order, if you go to this particular URL here, you will see a simple GUI page where you can enter all the details, and it will create a JSON object. Yeah, it will create a JSON file for you that you can actually send over to your installers. Now, this itself is not intended as a something that you use in production. It's just for demo. To make use of this feature effectively, you would want to look at some sort of automation where the file is created from your CRM system, or wherever the actual data is, rather than trying to type in information at this location. Okay. Next feature is quick align. Actually, this was the first enhancement request we got when we originally started beta trialing cnArcher. And the request was simple. Not all install visits are to install a brand new SM. A lot of the times it's basically a customer saying, my performance is bad, something went wrong, come take a look. And during that time, the installer's work there is basically to realign the SM, or maybe relocate the SM to a different location. The SM is already fully configured, so there's no need to walk through the process of configuring the SM. All you need to do is realign the SM, run a link test, validate the install, and leave. So the quick align allows you to do just that. So from the menu, there's a option called quick align. If you choose that, then it's a slightly different flow. And what you will see here is that we'll skip over all the configuration pages. So there's no we don't ask the user for VLANs or anything of that sort. It assumes that the SM is already fully configured, and it jumps directly to the alignment page and link test page, and it finishes the install at that point. So it allows the installer to quickly realign and test a subscriber module that's already been configured correctly. Now, by this time, most of our customers are using cnMaestro, and you can, if you're using cnMaestro, you can actually log into cnMaestro from the app, and you get some benefits out of logging in to cnMaestro from the app. Now, even if you are using cnMaestro, it is not mandatory to log in from the app to cnMaestro, but if you do, then it comes with advantages, which is what we'll go over. So the first thing is it will allow you to provision a staging config to the SM. So again, you are taking the SM brand new out of the box, but one of the requests from customers is, before when you're not using cnArcher, a lot of the workflow of customers included provisioning the SM with a fixed configuration before handing it off to the installer. Now they wanted to keep that workflow even with cnArcher, but have the cnArcher do the configuration. So and this feature allows you to do exactly that. So you can, in cnMaestro, you can configure this provisioning, the initial staging config, and how you identify that particular configuration template to cnArcher is by including this particular description for that template that you create in cnMaestro. When cnArcher sees this, what it will do is it will download this particular template and store it locally. So you can have a one version for PMP SMs, another version for ePMP SMs. It will download both, and depending on the type of SM, it will apply it. So, and if you have this particular staging configured in cnMaestro, what you'll see is the initial screen will look slightly different in that you will see this section here called initial configuration, and you'll have this apply button that you can use to push the initial configuration to the SM. And again, if you don't have this configured in cnMaestro, you will not see this particular section in the on the screen. So now when you click on the apply button, it will take whatever configuration was downloaded from cnMaestro and push it to the SM before it even starts the installation process. And next one is, if you have configured your tower locations and APs in cnMaestro, including the direction of the AP, then one of the nice things the app can do is it will download and cache the information about your towers and access points. And when you are at a subscriber location, it will tell you the 3 nearest APs that are available to you that you can try to connect the SM with. This is useful if you are in a location where there are multiple AP options for you to connect and you want to try multiple. So this will tell you the distance of each AP. It will tell you the direction of the AP. You can point the SM in that direction, do an AP evaluation, then you can change to a different AP, do another AP evaluation, and see which will work better for you. And again, for this to work, it is required that the tower locations are all configured correctly in cnMaestro. The next item is configuring the scan list. So we are not going over the configuration of the app because it's pretty straightforward how the configuration works. But one of the things that connecting to cnMaestro can help with is that the app can automatically download all the scan list automatically from by looking at the configuration of all the APs in the network. So if you have 100 APs with some are using 20 megahertz, some are using 30 megahertz, and the frequencies of each of those APs. So the app looks at all of that, and then it automatically populates your scan list to include all those options. So you don't have to manually go and configure the scan list. And finally, you have the option of onboarding the SM to cnMaestro. This is something that the administrator, not the installer. But if you're using the app, then as part of the flow, you can onboard the SM into cnMaestro and not have to call the installer to do that step. Let me see. It looks like there's a question. Give me 1 second. So we'll just go over a few of the questions that came. The first one is with the latest iOS beta. Whenever we click on the hamburger menu icon, it crashes the app. Is this a known issue? Yes, this was not a known issue when we released the beta, but yes, it's a known issue. It happens with some phones, and we will post an update sometime this week, which will address this issue. Second question. To set up the let me just read this myself so I understand what this is. So basically it's saying it's asking you to enter the onboarding key, and it's a mandatory field, and you don't remember it. I think we have made it not a mandatory field. I'm not sure if that's how it works on iOS also. I can check, but right now, at least on the Android version, it's no longer a mandatory field. You will need to enter it only if you want to onboard the SM. But this is question from Richard Martinez. Richard, are you talking about the iOS version or the Android version? Next question, does this workflow happen even when the PMP 450 device connected to an AP through installation color code ICC? Yes, I don't think the workflow will be different when it's connected to the installation color code. Actually, the app is, I would say the app is not really optimized for installation color code because it will walk you through the steps of AP evaluation, etc., before it actually gets you to the alignment page. One thing we are looking at enhancement for future is that if you are using installation color code and the SM actually connects to an AP, then we will allow you to skip some of the steps that are no longer required and jump directly to the alignment page. Can the work order be generated from cnMaestro? This is the goal, but not currently. But our goal is that the work order can be generated from cnMaestro. So, and the installation summary will also come back to cnMaestro. So the installation is controlled by the administrator using cnMaestro. But right now, that feature is not there. It is on the roadmap, but not on the short-term roadmap. So I cannot give you a date, but that is our goal. Does the work order need to be created on the cnArcher that is installed on that particular installer's phone? If you are manually creating it, yes, it has to be created on that phone. But like I said, you can email the work order to the installer and they can click on it in their email application and launch it in cnArcher. I hope that's what you meant, and the earlier slide should have answered your question. Now, one thing is this feature is currently supported only on Android, not on iOS, but we'll be adding it on iOS soon. Can you have multiple choices for the initial configuration? Not right now. Basically, you can have one for PMP and one for ePMP, but you cannot have multiple configuration files for PMP and ePMP. And I think Richard just said it's on iOS. So Richard, I will take a look. The original use case when we added that login for cnMaestro was to allow the user to onboard the SM. That's why we always ask the onboarding key. It's like I said, it's optional now on Android. We'll make it optional on iOS also. Is there a way to get the onboarding key to finish the setup? Hope I answered the question. If you're actually using the onboarding key, then you have to type it in. The app will not pull it automatically from cnMaestro because the onboarding key is a per installer thing, and it's I don't know if it would be the right thing to do to pull a sensitive information like that automatically. Okay, and coming back to this, the cnMaestro onboarding, I think it's the same thing that you can do from cnMaestro. You can change the firmware, you can change the configuration template and onboard it. And next, we recently added the ability to onboard a cnPilot E-series AP from cnArcher. If you are a WISP, then this might not be of interest to you, but I briefly wanted to go over it. Now, we have a few customers who use who deploy cnPilot APs on a very large scale. So it's they have multiple sites spread all over the country, and they send out installers, and while they're deploying, installers go out on a daily basis to many of these sites and start deploying APs. So each site may be 1 to 10 APs. It may be a small site to a relatively large site, but each site will have a small number of APs. But the overall deployment is hundreds or thousands of APs. And one of the challenges they faced is that everything is managed by cnMaestro, but they were having a hard time keeping track of which AP was installed at which location. Especially since in this case the installation was contracted out to multiple companies. So you go to one installer and give them 100 APs and say, okay, deploy at these 10 sites and come back. So they would go and put up the APs, and because we support this zero touch configuration and all, the AP would automatically come online, get the configuration from cnMaestro and starts operating. But all the APs show up under the default network in cnMaestro. So that was becoming a problem because the administrator, every day they would see a few hundred APs coming online, but they would not know which location these APs were installed at. So this particular feature was added just to solve that problem. It can be used, even if you're installing just a single AP, it can be used in that case also. But it may be just better to just do it manually from cnArcher than trying to do it from it may be easier to do it from cnMaestro than trying to use the app to do that. So all it does is really you enter the serial number of the access point and it will claim and onboard it into cnMaestro. Now, when you are installing an SM, the app is talking directly to SM. When you're installing the cnPilot, the app is not talking to the device at all. It is talking only to cnMaestro. And where the benefit of using the app here really is that when you use the app to install the cnPilot, the app will download the details about all the sites that is configured in cnMaestro, including the GPS coordinates of the site. And when you install a particular AP, it will match the location of your current location based on the GPS coordinates of the phone with the locations of all the sites in cnMaestro, and it will automatically map that device to the correct site. So you don't have to you don't have to do an explicit action to map that particular AP to the correct site. So if you use the app, all the APs being deployed automatically show up in the correct site in cnMaestro. It's similar to what we do with SM, where all the SMs show up at the correct GPS coordinates on the map. And let's go over a few additional features that may not be obvious that these features exist. So I wanted to go over that specifically. One thing is that there is this on each screen there is a section at the top that it'll show up again once this loops through. There's a section at the top that shows the current status of the SM. Now, if you click on that section, it will launch this details of the SM. So it's if you want to know what the IP address is, or if you want to know what the Ethernet port negotiated to, we can just click on the top status pane, and it will launch this screen which shows a lot more details about the SM that you might want to see but not want to launch the GUI of the SM to see. So this, you can come to this page and see a sort of the status home screen. It has most of the information that you would see when you launch the home screen of the SM directly from the GUI. And from here, you can also launch the GUI directly if you want, reboot the SM or factory default the SM. Now, this feature, you can export and import app configuration. And what this allows the administrator to do is basically create a sort of master configuration for cnArcher and email it out to the installers, and as a sort of a text file, and you can import it from the email, just how you would import a work order. So you can it gets sent as an attachment, and when you click on the when you click on the attachment in your email client, it will open up in cnArcher, and it will ask you whether you want to import the configuration or writing the current configuration. A report a bug option. I think if you're using it, you may already be familiar with it. What it allows you to do is report an issue to Cambium, and compared to sending a description manually, if you follow this mechanism, it also attaches the debug logs to your email, so that way we can look at the debug logs and figure out the issue faster. And I want to talk about some of the new things coming. So if like I said, we are currently on 1.4 for Android. We were on beta for some time, and as of yesterday, it is official. So even those who are not on beta, they will see 1.4 getting pushed to their phones starting soon. And for iOS, we are on 1.2 beta, and it will take maybe another 4 to 6 weeks before we are in a state to release that. And the big feature is ePMP support. Now, some of the new features that we want to add, one is streamline the installation. I think the the screen that you're seeing is the wrong one, so ignore that. One of the things we want to do is basically make it faster. Now, one of the complaints from experienced installers is that when they use cnArcher, it actually slows them down compared to directly using the GUI, and that's primarily because when you're using the GUI, if you sort of optimized your workflow for speed. So what typically happens is you already have a configuration file. So you launch the GUI, you import the configuration file, you align the SM, do a link test, and you're done. Whereas with cnArcher, it tries to walk you through the process. So the configuration is step by step. So there's one step where you configure the scan list. There is another step where you configure the color code. There is another step where you configure the IP address. And for some of these steps, the radio requires a reboot. So there are additional reboots that you have to go through when you're using cnArcher. And it also, like there was a question earlier about ICC. It also is doesn't take into account that you may already be connected to the AP even when you start, because either because of ICC or because the SM is already configured with the right color code. So the app does not take this into account. It walks you through. It works for the scenarios, but it still walks you through the screens. So what happens is, if you are used to installing directly from the GUI and you know what you're doing, then using cnArcher is actually slower than directly using it from the GUI. And the original intent of cnArcher was to make it easy for new installers to get up to speed and start installing. But what we are and that part works with, it's easier for the new installer to start using cnArcher than the GUI directly. And it also means that you don't have to train for PMP and ePMP separately if you're using both. So that part works. But if you're an experienced installer, you still have this, it takes longer time. And when I say longer time, it's basically maybe, 5 minutes instead of 2 minutes. But it still takes a longer time to walk through the cnArcher screens. So, and one thing that we are trying to do going forward is, rather than focus just on the new installer, we want to focus on all the installers and make this the default for new installers. So we will look at the places where we can optimize the cnArcher flow to make it easy for any installer. So there will definitely be components of that where it will, walk you through the steps if you're a new installer. But if you're an experienced installer, it will be more aware of the context, and it will, skip the screens or make some of the screens optional, so that it is as close to speed as using the GUI directly. Second one is support for quick align for the PTP mode. So both PMP and ePMP support PTP mode, and we want to support quick align for PTP. We're not doing a full configuration for PTP because I think from our experience, most of the time when PTP nodes are being installed, they are already provisioned in the lab, tested, and then you just take them out and install it. So we are not, the app is not helping you with the configuration, but it will help you with the alignment. And last item is we want to automatically upload the installation summary to cnMaestro so that you have a record of all the installs that your team is doing. So and I think this will become a key benefit. I mean, even now, yes, the installation summary is there, and yes, it can be emailed out, but having to do it manually means that it is not being done consistently. Once you have this, once you add this feature where the app will automatically upload the installation summary to cnMaestro, then you will, the administrator or the operations manager will have a much better view of the installations in their network with actual data from the radio than what they have now. So I think this is, we are hoping that this will drive more adoption of cnArcher, where it's not just helping the installer, but it's actually collecting data that maybe you don't have now, or it's a manual way of collecting now, but it'll all be automatically collected and saved to cnMaestro, and later on you can go and review. If a subscriber calls about a problem, you have the information in cnMaestro about what happened during the install. Or if you want to review your own, like if you are an installer and you want to review your own past installs, you can log into cnMaestro and just look at your past installs. Let me see if there are any more questions. Will the 670 be included in future releases? We don't have any immediate plans for 670. Right now, I think the focus is on 450 and ePMP, and it's primarily because it's easier for us to add those two platforms because the mechanism already exists. 670 we will start looking at once this is done. The goal is, of course, for cnArcher to help with all the installs. We have to actually look at whether it makes sense to add 670 or how much it will help. I mean, if it will help, then we will definitely add it. But I think this is the first time that I'm getting asked this question about 670. If we get more requests for this, then we will definitely add it. So that's all for this webinar. So if there are any more questions, let me know. If not, do download the app. If you have not tried it, try it out, especially if you are if you're waiting for the ePMP version on iOS. Do download the beta, try it out. It's the goal, like I said, the original goal was to help the installer, but we are sort of changing our direction with the new features, and we also want to make sure that it's an end-to-end thing, tying up the what the administrator has to do for the install, automatically pushing down the using the work order, automatically pushing down the configuration to the installer, and getting the installation summary back into cnMaestro. And longer term, we will also look at getting this work order also into cnMaestro, so that you are actually configuring the work order in cnMaestro, and the installer is basically just seeing what he needs to do for the day and getting the feedback directly into cnMaestro. So if you have not tried that, definitely try it out. Let me know your feedback. Just post questions or any issues in the forum, and we'll respond to that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rajesh. We'll send a follow-up to attendees with the recording of this webinar, and it'll also be posted on the Cambium Network's online community. Thank you for joining, and have a good day.